doesn't matter. We'll get it. Move that over. Get this going. What's up? We are live on Thursday in 6th period. This is creative writing, and I want to go over the last few things plus the final activity I'm going to post, which is our CQA, our assessment. It's not a test. It's another step of your story, but it'll be counted as the big one. And it's kind of wrapping it all up. So, quick recap of what we've got. I just graded the reading quizzes that you guys did over the last few days. You'll get an email with each one that's like green or red, you know, yes or no. And then on the one that's not multiple choice, on the one at the end, there's a comment. Sometimes it's just very quick, like good job. Other times I said, hey, you missed this, you got to do this, etc. And most of them were very nice, very good scores, no problem. If you got a low score, you can redo it. If you got a 0 because you didn't, you still can. Totally fine. I just wanted to get the grades in and not leave them blank, but I can totally change it anytime, no problem. Next, we have the second draft. I haven't graded those, but I will. It shouldn't take too long because the second draft is checking for formatting, spell check, capitalization, all that good stuff, which means I've already read your stories and I'm looking for specific things, so I can probably do them today and tomorrow. Then the final draft, the one that we are starting now, is something I've told you about for a while, which is a little bit of reader feedback. You're going to give this to a person and ask them to read it. Okay, usually in this class I like to do peer editing or workshopping where you share with a group and get feedback. We haven't really done that this quarter. We've had a lot of snow days and e-learning, and it's just been hard. But maybe we'll get it next time. This one, we're going to start with a small version where you pick one person to look at your story. Okay? Someone in this class or not. It could be a friend from another class. Okay? Ideally, someone with a GCSES email so they can easily share the file and comment on it. Don't give it to your mom or something. But if you have a question, if you're like, hey, could I, blah, 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 let me know. I'll probably say yes. But you want it to be somebody who's willing to take a little bit of time, okay, and actually read it. You also want somebody who is willing to say specific things. So, for example, if you gave it to your mom, she'd probably just go, oh, that's nice, that's good, but not really have a, like critique. So I made a document, and the document says, okay, the reader fills out a couple parts, and then the writer fills out a couple parts. And I made it very simple, and here's what it's going to be. I should probably change the font or something because that looks kind of rinky-dink. I don't know. Once you find somebody, you share with them, etc. Oh, we got a very strange sound coming from outside. I've got my windows open, but it means that whenever a truck comes by with like a squealing metal part, then it's just in my ear. You're going to give it to the reader, and I want to ask the reader these 3 things. One, the thing that I've been stressing ever since the very beginning. Do you get a good sense of the character, what they want, what their motivation, what their thing is right away? And of course it can change, and of course it should change, but we want to have feeling like we're tracking somebody who has a goal, and we know what would be good or bad, and we know what would mess them up and what would please them, not just kind of rambling around with a person who we don't know. Next, were there any points where you thought something was unclear and should be clarified? This is probably the number one thing you get from a reader, which is stuff that in your head made sense, but then you realize when somebody else gets it, they don't realize, or they don't know the timeline, they don't know who's who, they don't know why something is important. So they might say, hey, why does this thing matter? What is this guy talking about? Why do they hate this other guy? That kind of thing. 3, were there any points where you thought something was missing and should be added. You might say, oh, we could use a little more info about how they got to this place or the rules of the world. If it's a magical or fantasy type world, you might need more rules of how these things are set up. If it's a character who shows up at the end out of nowhere, maybe we want to foreshadow them earlier, something like that. Okay, now again, you want to have a reader who is willing to answer those. You don't want to pick somebody who's just going to say, oh, it was nice, I liked it, good job, and then not give you any more. Then the writer is going to look at these three things, and they are not telling you that you have to do what the reader says, okay? In corporate media, if you make a big budget movie or if you make a TV show, then they might send it to focus groups and, you know, change things. This is not that. This is just one human talking to another human, okay? So if your reader says, hey, this part was unclear and I wasn't sure what it means, and I think you should add X, Y, and Z, you don't have to do the X, Y, and Z, but you should take into account that it was unclear. You might just cut that part and save yourself the trouble. You might move it to the end after we know all the key info. You might add something to the beginning to plant the seeds and tell us the important stuff. There are always multiple fixes to an issue, but you want to know the issues, okay? So 1 is just say, hey, are you going to take any of their suggestions? And 2 says, are you going to address them in a different way? So if they said that a certain character was not motivated and they didn't have a strong goal, you could say, okay, I'm going to do what they wanted and make the goal what they recommended and do the thing. Or you could say, no, I'm going to do a totally different version that's still addressing the concern, but with a different fix, you know. And then finally, oh my gosh, I didn't even finish typing this last sentence. I had a thing yesterday where I typed this and then it didn't save, so I had to redo today. So sometimes just the idea of giving it to somebody will make you realize that it's missing something. Hey, the suggestion was right. Okay, so sometimes if you're looking at your story in your own point of view and you're like, yes, I know what I mean, I know what it is, I know what I have in mind behind the scenes, it's hard to sort of keep track of what's what. But if you hand it to somebody else, even before they say anything, your mind will instantly go, oh, wait, I should have said this. I should have clarified this. I should have known. You know, it's just like how if you have a conversation and you walk away, then you instantly think of the cool, funny line that would have been a perfect comeback. It's not really about the other person. It's just about triggering your brain to like loosen up and figure out what these things would look like from another perspective. So that's it. I didn't want to make it too long, but it really depends. So for some people, you'll have real focus on one thing. Your reader will say, hey, this one part is totally missing, or this one part is totally unclear, and you'll like go back and forth with them saying, hey, what if I did this? What if I did this? Other times they'll put you know, a couple little comments, and you'll spend a medium amount of time thinking about each one. This is the same story. You're not writing a new thing. You're not starting from scratch. This is just another step. So once we've done this, it'll be having gone through the planning and coming up with your motivation and plot. It'll be editing for format and spell check. It'll be sitting it, you know, running it by a reader and having it improved in that way. And so by the end, it will have gone through several different steps, and it will, unless something goes wrong, it'll be better than it was, and it'll be nice and in good shape. Okay, by the end of next quarter, we'll do a little, some version, I haven't figured out yet, but some version of like publishing these and sharing them with people. But For this, we're starting small. You share it with one person, your choice, and choose wisely. Okay, somebody who's willing to give a little feedback and think about it. That's it. I will end this video before it becomes too long, and I will spend the rest of this class answering questions, grading stuff, looking at your second drafts, all of that. Remember, we have over a week, okay? We have more than a week left before the end, so if your grade is low now, that's fine. It can come up in different ways. It can come up from redoing an old thing that's missing, from doing one of these new things that's worth a lot, from doing that extra credit I posted a while ago. We have a lot of possibilities, so let's use them. Thanks. All right, that was about exactly